the truth sometimes.
All right. Well, good morning. Welcome to our weekly Bible study for looking at the lessons, the weekly readings. This coming Sunday will be the 14th Sunday after Pentecost, into our 8th week of our second to last series called God Is, looking at the different attributes of God. We've looked at God's all-knowing, all-powerful, He's faithful, He's good and gracious and loving. He's sovereign. Today, or this weekend, we're going to look at God as omnipresent or ever-present, right? Omnipresent. And our readings are going to be from Genesis 35, verses 1 through 7. We might take a peek at the psalm, but the second reading, when I typed this up, I wasn't sure what it was going to be, but I think I had it on our sheet. It's 2 Corinthians 12, verses 1 through 10, which we kind of talked about in our sermon last week, but we're going to look at the text this week.
So it's not John 14.
Well, that's the gospel.
No, that's
John 14.
Psalm 46.
Well, it's going to be in the service, but we might not look at it in our study. Yeah. John 14, verses 15 through 21. That's a typo there, Chuck. Probably say 15. I think I had 15 in the thing. Yeah. All right. So, let's get started. In Genesis 35, and it has a subtitle to it, in my Bible, at least NIV, Jacob Returns to Bethel. Okay? So we're going to be talking about the story of Jacob near the end of his life. So what are some things about Jacob? Let's talk about his life. Who is his father? We'll start with that. Isaac is his father, right? So he's a child of the promise. Who's Isaac's father? Abraham, right? So Abraham gets the promise from God. You're going to be a great nation. Only problem is, he's old, they have no children, till finally Isaac is born. And Isaac means laughter. Right? Laughter. Because Sarah laughed when she heard the angel say, and God say, you're going to have a child. Nothing is impossible for God. They have the child Isaac. Abraham, then we know the whole story of Abraham and Isaac. And then now Isaac is sent off by his family to go find a wife and finds Rebekah. And they come back and live in the land. God's made the same promise to Isaac as he's made to Abraham. You're going to be a great nation. You're going to inherit this land. And your family will be a blessing for all the peoples of the earth. Only problem is, they're not having babies either. Until finally, she conceives, and not only does she have a baby, she has twins. And one of them is named Esau, and one is named Jacob. Who's the older of the two? What does that imply then? Being the oldest child. You get the birthright, and you get the blessing, right? Now, Esau means hairy red guy. He's a hunter. Jacob ends up being a mama's boy, right? He's always hanging around mama. So they play their favorites. Daddy loves Isaac, Isaac loves Esau. Rebecca is more tuned to Jacob, right? And 2 times Esau acts very impatiently and foolishly and ends up selling his birthright to his brother. And then his brother steals the blessing when he tricks his father. Okay? And now that Esau's lost everything, what does he want to do? No, Esau. What does Esau want to do? The brother who got tricked.
Well, he wants to kill Jacob. Jacob thinks he does.
He wants to kill Jacob. He does. No, he does. Yeah, he threatens. He's angry. He wants to kill his brother. And so Mama tells Jacob to do what? Leave. Go back to our family to Padan Aram, which is today in northern Iraq, where they originally came from. She's got family back there. She's got a brother named Laban, and so he goes on the run. Now, while he's on the run, what happens in the middle of the night? He has a dream, a vision. And there's God above, and there's this descending ladder or staircase, and angels are going up and down. Yeah, Jacob's ladder. They're going up and down. And God at the top of it is the one, and he makes a promise to Jacob. Same promise that he made to Isaac. You're going to inherit this land. You're going to have a great family and number, and you will be a blessing. Your family will be a blessing. The covenant promise, same thing made to Abraham. And God tells him too that, oh, by the way, and you'll never be alone. I'll always be with you. Always be with you. And now he's running for his life, right? And he gets up and he makes a altar. And what does he call that place? Bethel, which means house of God. He makes an altar and worships God there. This is God. God's surely in this place. And he worships God, and he makes an altar there at Bethel. That God made this promise. And not only the covenant promise, but also the specific promise. I'm going to be with you always. It's a pretty hard life he's been living, right? But he's a trickster, right? So he gets to Uncle Laban, and who does he meet? Laban's got 2 daughters. One named Leah, one named Rachel. Who is he infatuated with? Rachel, the younger of the 2. Uncle Laban is a trickster. Work for 7 years, and you can have Rachel. He works for his uncle for 7 years. Marriage night comes, and Uncle isn't going to give away his youngest daughter. He's going to give away his oldest daughter, like he feels is the right thing to do. And Jacob ends up, surprise, he's married who? Leah instead. Ugh. So, Uncle says 7 more years, then you can have her. And so he works 7 more years, and he marries Rachel. And in the midst of all of this, he's been tricked and he's been deceived. He isn't living at home. It's been 14 years now already, but he begins to get really rich, right? He knows how to take care of animals, and his flocks are growing, and then the babies start coming, right? Leah has a bunch. Rachel gets mad because she's not having any. She gives him a concubine. He has some with her concubine. Now Leah's not having any more, so she gets mad, so she gives her concubine. So he has some more sons with her concubine, and then finally Rachel becomes pregnant. And who does she give birth to? Joseph. Joseph, that's her son. Joseph's her son. Now, she gets pregnant again, and she gives birth to Benjamin. But in the midst of giving birth, what happens? She dies. Right. And now Jacob is without his the wife that he loved the most. Right. But he's got 12 kids now, 12 sons and a daughter. So the family's grown, been blessed. And then he decides to do what? It's time to go back home. He's got a family, and he's got all these flocks, pretty rich guy. He's going to head back. But the only thing is, who's back home still? His brother Esau. Isaac is still alive as well. But Esau has committed to do what? Kill him. Kill him. So he's before the night of the meeting, he spends a night alone, just him. Sends all the family ahead of time, sends some gifts, and in the midst of this alone night, who shows up?
Esau?
No. God. The angel, the messenger. And a man, right? And he's wrestling with Jacob. And so he's wrestling with God. And it's a stale match, right? A stalemate. Nobody's winning. And so he says, let me go. And Jacob says, no, I won't let you go unless you bless me. And he blesses him by giving him a new name. Jacob will now be called what? Starts with an I. Israel, which means wrestles with God. Okay? And before the match is over, the guy dislocates his hip as well. And so he limps. He's limping away, right? But he's contented with God, and God is blessed. He's lived a life, a lot of struggles, a lot of aloneness. Okay? Now that's where we get him here in Genesis 35. Are you ready? You guys did really good. You did well. You don't have to go back to catechism yet. Right after, we'll see how you do on the next one.
You mentioned that there was a
Yeah.
movie out a couple of years ago called The Red Tent.
I did?
No,
Oh.
a movie
Oh,
was
yeah.
called
okay.
The
Well,
Red,
yeah,
Red Tent, and it kind of just like you related.
Was it about
That
Jacob's
was
life?
mostly about the
Women.
daughter Diana. What's her name?
Oh, Dinah?
Dinah, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So, now we get to Genesis 35. Then God said to Jacob, "Go up to Bethel and settle there, and build an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau." So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Get rid of the foreign gods that you have with you, and purify yourselves and change your clothes. Then come, let us go up to Bethel, where I will build an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and who has been with me wherever I have gone." So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods that they had, and the rings in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the oak at Shechem. Then they set out, and the terror of God fell upon the towns all around them, so that no one pursued them. Jacob and all the people with him came to Luz, that is Bethel, in the land of Canaan, and there he built an altar, and he called the place El Bethel, because it was there that God revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother. All right. Let's start with y'all. We did a lot of the backstory, but maybe there's more questions that you have. Any questions, any thoughts, any opines, any comments?
It says he took all of his family.
Yeah.
How long did it take them to get there? Now, are we talking years?
No, this is not far.
Okay, it's not long.
He's gone. He's already home in the area. God just wants him to go to a different place, to Bethel, back to the place where he built the altar originally on his fleeing. So it's not a long distance, no. Yeah. It's just a kind of a, and you know what? In reality, they're what kind of people?
Nomad.
They're nomadic people. Yeah, they're used to living in what?
Picking up.
Picking up and moving in tents. Yeah, they're nomadic. This is they haven't built established permanent homes. They're nomadic people because they follow where the places is where they can graze their animals. Yeah.
It's kind of strange that they have other gods and the other.
Well, thank you
Why
for
they're-
noticing that, right? Yeah. So his plea to them: get rid of the foreign gods that you have with you. Now, one story, when he goes and visits Uncle Laban for that extended 14-year period, 14-plus-year period, right? And then he's deciding he's going to leave and go back. Rachel takes Laban's idols, his gods, and she's going to take them with her, his wife. And Laban comes pursuing, "Who took my gods?" And Jacob says, "None of us. I only worship your Lord, right? We don't have your..." Well, Rachel had him. And she hit him in her chest, and she sat on her chest pretending that she was unclean, which meant she was having her period, and that Laban wasn't going
So
to
they
check
would
it.
stay away from.
Yeah, where they stay away from her and her stuff. Yeah, yeah. But seems like they still have them, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, it is, I believe, I read that this morning, that it said Jacob buried it and he hid them,
Yeah, he buried them at Shechem.
but
He wants them to get rid of the stuff, right?
my term, in the Bible, it said it hid them,
Okay.
which is kind of
And
interesting.
the
I thought.
rings in their ears too, so was the gold maybe something that they were
That's a good question.
material?
Yeah.
That I don't know. Let's see. Okay. So my footnote here says they were worn as amulets or charms.
Oh.
So they had an attachment. It was something pagan about them.
Why
They
did
were-
he destroy them?
It's a good question. Why doesn't he destroy them? Don't know.
But that must be why God protected them, because he did bury the false idols in their,
He got rid of them, yeah.
but the Lord watched over them.
But looks like they continue to struggle with it, don't they?
Yeah.
Jacob, patriarch, right? Father of the 12 tribes. Yet his wives are
Even
pagan worshippers, coming from his uncle Laban.
Kind of reminiscent of later on Solomon with all his wives and all their gods.
They'll struggle with that when they're in Egypt. They have other gods. They took them with them to Egypt. So it seems like though they were called by God and they followed the Lord, they struggled with idolatry. But we never have that problem.
oh, but
We do.
yeah, we all
I gotta tell you, how many times do we have to look at the Packer schedule before we can do something? We struggle with our gods. I'm telling you, we don't.
well,
Yes.
I tend to be a little, like, not surprised, I guess, but I wouldn't have expected it, I guess. That it's like if Jacob believes, I have one Lord, I just have my Lord. How does he become that way, but then his brother has idols? And his uncle has
His
idols.
uncle, but not his brother.
Oh,
It doesn't
I
say
thought his
Esau
brother
does.
too.
Yeah. Well, Esau will marry Hittite girls. That's why.
And then
that's,
they bring
and
it.
they will. So that's why mommy's not really happy with Esau,
Twice up there.
because he married Hittite girls. At least Jacob's going to marry somebody from the family, but they are also, so they're from the family, but they are still idolaters, aren't they?
Well, yeah, I would expect in a family that they would all be the same.
Yeah.
And not be so,
Yeah.
but it's because of the outsiders that they bring in that it changes them.
But even in our families today, just because
We're all different,
That's
no
true.
matter what.
And this will become, when they come out of exile eventually, and they return back to the land of Judah after being in 70 years of exile, the priests and the leaders there will be rigid on, you do not intermarry, you do not marry people from the land, because they're going to bring their gods into your life, and that's why we went into the exile in the first place. And in fact, Nehemiah and Ezra will make the Israelite men divorce their foreign wives and get rid of them, because they would bring idolatry back into it. That's what they were convinced of.
Yeah, and I guess, like we say, we have it now too, but I don't know, why do I expect more perfection at this time than what we have?
Not
I
at
mean,
all.
now I look at it and think, oh, all the world.
There were no good old days.
Yeah.
Yeah, never was. Never was.
So
Good,
what
good
Laban
place.
was he didn't have it. Idols, did he?
It would appear he did, yeah. I think Laban is the one who, when they leave, oh, it's in chapter 31 somewhere. That's a long chapter too. So looking at verse, go to verse 22, chapter 31, verse 22. So now Jacob is leaving Laban, and I'm going to start there. On the third day, Laban was told that Jacob had fled, taking his relatives with him. He pursued Jacob for 7 days, caught him with him in the hill country of Gilead. Then God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream at night and said, "Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad." So Jacob pitched his tent in the hill country of Gilead when Laban overtook him, and Laban and his relatives camped there too. Then Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done? You've deceived me. You carried off my daughters like captives in war." Of course, they're his wives, right? Jacob's wives. "Why did you run off secretly and deceive me? Why didn't you tell me so I could send you away with joy and singing to the music of tambourines and harps? You didn't even let me kiss my grandchildren or my daughters goodbye. You've done a foolish thing. I have the power to harm you, but last night the God of your fathers said to me, 'Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad.' Now you have gone off because you have longed to return to your father's house. But why did you steal my gods?" Right? So, yeah, Laban is not a worshiper of Yahweh, not a follower of Yahweh. He's got his false gods, right?
But he was able to hear the voice of
Right,
the
but
Lord.
God came to him in a dream.
Yeah.
Your God, but it's your God, right?
Yeah.
So Jacob answered Laban, I was afraid because I thought you would take your daughters away from me by force. But if you find anyone who has your gods, he shall not live in the presence of our relatives. See for yourself whether there is anything of yours here with me. If so, take it. Now Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the gods. Yeah. So yeah, Laban was not a believer of Yahweh. Right? Yeah. Now he's not. Laban is not. He's uncle to Jacob, but by mother, not by father. If that makes sense. Rebecca is his sister.
So there isn't really a bloodline.
Right. There isn't, no. It's not, he's not a descendant of Abraham. Now, whether he changes because of this, I don't know. We don't know. But yeah, at this point, he has his own gods. Now again, this is descriptive, not prescriptive. This is describing just the scenes that are happening, not prescribing that this is the way God would want it to be. In fact, that's why you struggle with, he's got how many wives? 2 and 2 concubines. You know, God's not going, yay, because God said, one man, one woman, that's your marriage. But it was what they did. Right? Yeah. All right, so back to Genesis 35. Any other questions, thoughts, or opinions?
It's kind of amazing that the 12 tribes of Israel,
Yeah,
and they were from the concubines, from the 2 wives. I mean,
yeah,
they're all combined.
yeah.
And,
God does extraordinary things even from anything, doesn't he? Yeah. But they are people of the promise. Because the promise is from Abraham's family, God's going to do what? He's going to bring a Savior who will restore the entire world. His family will be a blessing from his family. They are meant to be a blessing. Right? They were supposed to be enacting it themselves. They failed miserably. So God finally said, okay, I'm going to reduce it down to one person. Well, who's the son of Abraham that he sends? Jesus, his own son. Yeah, Jesus is the son of Abraham. Right? He's a descendant of that promise. Okay, so here's the big verse in this passage. It's in verse 3. When he builds the altar of God at Bethel, remember Bethel's called House of God, where God came to him the first time and said, hey, whenever you go, however you go, wherever you go, I'll be with you. And at the end of verse 3, there's this great passage. And he has been with me wherever I have gone. God's ever present. It's just so hard to imagine. Wherever he was, whatever situation he was, alone, afraid, he was never alone. Because who was with him? God promised, I'll be with you. God's with us wherever we go. It's so hard for our finite minds to comprehend this, isn't it? He's here right now. When you go on your pontoon boat ride later this afternoon, he's there. Yeah.
And sometimes you wish that maybe he wasn't there.
Right.
You do
When-
stuff that isn't
You wanna
reason.
hide.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Because, does that make a difference that he's always there?
and he knows all.
Which was our first week, all knowing. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts or questions from Genesis? God is all present, even when we're alone, or we think we're alone. We're not alone. Okay, let's do it. Let's go to 2 Corinthians 12. So we talked a little bit about this in the sermon last week, sufficient grace, and that's kind of the point, but I just kind of wanted to use it. I had no other epistle that really fit, so I said, let's put this one in. Because we can. Why not? So 2 Corinthians chapter 12. So a couple maybe week ago, one of Chad Bird's Facebook little posts was, when's the last time you read 4 Corinthians? And everybody kind of was going, what? Did he make a mistake there? 4 Corinthians.
Well, there's thought that there are 4, but there's only 2 that.
There's 2 that become
put in the
scriptures.
Bible. Yeah.
There are 2 lost letters, though, in between. And this 2 Corinthians in our Bibles is probably the last of the 4 letters that he wrote to the Corinthians.
Oh.
So he probably did write 4 letters. And so I'll just do you a quick little read here of what Chad put in his thing. He says, when's the last time you studied 4 Corinthians? No, I didn't. You didn't misread it. I didn't have a typo. I purposely said 4th, not 1st or 2nd. And I'll answer the question for you. The last time you read 4 Corinthians is when you read 2 Corinthians. Here's what I mean. What we call 1 Corinthians was actually Paul's second letter to the church in Corinth. In 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 9, Paul refers to an earlier letter which he warned the Corinthians not to associate with the sexually immoral people. That first letter has not survived. Okay? So what we call 1 Corinthians is really the second letter that he wrote. He wrote an earlier letter already warning them and admonishing them about things, and he mentions it in that letter. Then came the second letter, what we call 1 Corinthians, written from Ephesus sometime in the early 50s. In it, Paul addresses all the problems, the divisions, immorality, lawsuits, and all the other problems facing this congregation. And they were one. And it was a very admonishing, rebuking letter. It was really stern. Okay? After sending that letter, however, matters became worse. Paul made what he called later a painful visit. He mentions that in what we say is 2 Corinthians. Right? And after returning from that painful visit, he wrote a third letter, which he says, out of much affliction and anguish of my heart with many tears. This severe letter, delivered by Titus, has also not survived. Only after Titus brought encouraging news did Paul finally write the 4th letter to the Corinthians, which we call 2 Corinthians. In this letter, Paul now rejoices over their returning to the truth while continuing to confront the minority who remained in rebellion and the false apostles who maybe were leading them astray. So, he says, knowing the sequence helps explain why 2 Corinthians sometimes shifts dramatically in tone. It's not nearly as stern. It's more conciliatory and encouraging. Okay? And then he puts a little footnote at the end. P.S. To anticipate the question, why did God not preserve the other 2 letters? We could ask God that question in the heavenly school. But he's deemed not to tell us. Simple as that. So we have no reason, no knowledge of why the other 2 didn't survive, why they weren't part of the canon of the scripture. But when you get to heaven, you can ask God. Until then,
Just try it.
we don't know. All right. So 2 Corinthians chapter 12. In chapter 11, the second part of chapter 11, Paul begins to boast about all the things that he has suffered, okay? All the things that he's gone through. And because a lot of the people in Corinth took it as a sign of weakness, that if you're really God's apostle, you shouldn't have bad things happening to you. He says, no. I'm going to boast in it, right? And then he gets to chapter 12. So, must I go on boasting, although there is nothing to be gained? I will go on to visions and revelations from the Lord. Okay? So it says, I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up to the 3rd heaven. I think he's referring to himself, by the way, when he says, I know a man of Christ. Whether it is in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows. And I know that this man, whether in the body or apart from the body, I do not know, but God knows, was caught up to paradise. He heard inexpressible things, things that man is not permitted to tell. I will boast about a man like that, but I will not boast about myself except about my weaknesses. Even if I should choose to boast, I would not be a fool, because I would be speaking the truth. But I refrain, so no one will think more of me than is warranted by what I do or say. So to keep me from becoming conceited because of these surpassingly great revelations, there was given me a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, and hardships, and persecutions, and in difficulties. For when I'm weak, then I'm strong. All right, a lot there. Any questions, comments?
Totally confused.
Well, that's all right.
You talked about, didn't know what his weaknesses is exactly, but there's a little hint there. A messenger of Satan to harass me,
Yeah.
to keep me from becoming conceited.
Yeah, no clue what that is, though.
Oh,
Just a thorn.
A
It's
thorn.
like a thorn.
In the flesh. It's painful. It hurts. You wish you could rip it out and get it away. God says, no, it's going to stay. Yeah. And he attributes it to Satan, but again, we have no clue of what that might be. He describes it as a sent by Satan, but what it is, we don't know. And there's, like I said, there's 100 scholarly theories of what it is and debates, and some of them are outlandish. Some of them are, maybe.
It doesn't matter.
Which it does not, which is the key, yeah, that it could be anything. And we all got our own thorns, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what you got, you look perplexed, what's going
Well,
on?
I have a note that I wrote myself
Okay.
from once before,
Yes, ma'am.
because I underlined third heaven, caught up to the third heaven.
Okay,
And I wrote the note, third heaven is where God resides.
yeah. So,
But then I also have a note that says, that I crossed out, that said equals rapture, and then I have it crossed out.
good. It's not.
It's not, so I
Yeah.
so I don't know, at one point I had that, and then I crossed it out.
So I'm just going to read to you from my little footnote from my study Bible here.
Okay.
So Paul is sure of this remarkable experience, but he is unsure whether this rapture, being caught up, right? That's what the word caught up, was one that included the body or one that took place separation from the body. So he's had some kind of experience, right? And where he says he's caught up. That's the word for rapture. Okay. But he doesn't know if it was bodily or if it was just a vision. So does that make sense? Okay. So he's got some kind of ecstatic spiritual experience that's happening. The third heaven designates a place beyond the immediate heaven of the Earth's atmosphere and beyond the further heaven of outer space and its constellations in the presence of God himself. So the ancients, especially Hebrew thought, kind of delineated, and God created, in the beginning, what? God created the heavens, it says heavens, and the earth, right? So the heavens, is that plural or singular?
Plural.
It's plural. So they took this as the heavens, there's more than just the eternal dwelling place, right? The heavens,
Sky.
the atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
The heavens extend to where all the stars and planets and things are. But then there's also the heavens where
The heaven.
God resides, his place. Yeah. And so that's what he's talking about when he says the third heaven. This is the place of God's dominion. Right? And that's where he sees God. He's got this ecstatic vision. Now, again, he's like, whether it's just me experiencing this by the vision, my soul, or body and soul, did I go there? I don't know. Don't know, but I had it. And what I saw was, he says, is paradise. Right? Paradise. And he gets this ecstatic vision, and there's things that's so great he can't even speak about it. Can't even write them down. But God gave him that. Right? And he says, so I've had the troubles, I've had the hardships, but I've had this vision. But God didn't want me to get too conceited and too all haughty that I had this great vision. So what did God do?
Gave him a thorn.
Gave him a thorn. And what's the thorn going to always remind him about?
His imperfection.
His imperfection and his weakness. But he says, that's okay. I'm going to boast in that. Why? Why did he say he's going to keep boasting in his weaknesses?
Well, God gave him a vision of, well, let's just say paradise. He knew what was coming later.
Okay, he did, but that's not why he's boasting about his weaknesses.
So the power of Christ could be upon him.
So
Or
that
press on him.
I'll know where the strength really comes from. It's not me. It's God's strength. When I'm weak, then I'm strong. That's why I'm going to keep boasting. Because what did Jesus promise him? Verse 9.
My grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness.
My grace is enough for you. I'm going to always be there, and it'll be enough for you. When you're riding high, it's enough for you. When you're riding low, it's enough for you. When is it enough for you?
Always.
Always. And this grace, this sufficient grace, always enough. And I mentioned it in the message last week. He said to me, it's imperfect. That's the imperfect tense. It doesn't happen a lot, especially in speech. So you've got, in our English language, we've got present tense, past tense, and future tense. We've got past, present, and future. Right? Present, I'm doing this. Past, I did this. Future, I will do this. Okay? Greek has present tense, imperfect, aorist, which is past, and then perfect tense. Okay? This is actually an imperfect verb structure. And the imperfect verb structure means it happened, but it continues to happen. Ongoing, continuous action. So it's, he said to me, and imperfect, and he keeps telling me, every day, my grace will be enough for you. So it's not just like a one-time blip. Got my grace, that ought to be enough, now pull up your bootstraps and start living the strong life. But God's constantly reminding him, you're not strong enough, but I am. You're not strong enough, but I am. Every day, he's reminding Paul of that. He keeps on telling me, my grace will be enough for you. My grace will be enough for you.
So I think I'm missing something.
That's okay.
What's the third heaven?
We just talked about
We
that.
have God's,
We just talked about that.
we have
With the
the
heavens.
atmosphere.
So it's a Hebrew thought. It's a Hebrew thought, right? So God created the heavens.
Yes,
So have one layer of heaven would be
the atmosphere.
the atmosphere.
Right.
Another layer of heaven
God's
is
realm, its own.
another layer of heaven is the expanse of the universe, right? Where all the stars
yeah,
are.
out of it.
And then another level of heaven is
Is
where
it-
God's domain is.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
that's in their
Okay,
in their
yes.
schematics. That's what the
Yeah.
third heaven would be, right? Yeah. So it's God's domain. That's where God's at. Yeah. And that's, where is that domain?
All over.
Oh yeah, isn't it everywhere? Everywhere. Where is God's domain? He's not regulated to a little corner in the universe. Where is God?
Everywhere.
He's
It's
everywhere.
here.
So what do we pray in the Lord's Prayer about heaven and earth? Thy will be done on heaven as our Father who art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. His kingdom, his name be hallowed. His kingdom come. His will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That earth and heaven would intersect, because where is God? Everywhere. And in the original paradise, God was everywhere. So he could do what in the afternoon? Take a nap, but also show up and take a walk with Adam and Eve,
Yes.
right?
Oh, yeah.
He could show up in
I like
the,
the
yeah, he could, yeah, I suppose he could. But he could show up in the middle of the afternoon and take a walk with Adam and Eve. Yeah, because where is he? Everywhere. And so he could be doing that and still do the other things he needed to do, because he's
Yes,
everywhere,
with all of us, all the time.
all the time, everywhere, which is so hard to imagine. But that does not mean that God is everything, and everything is God. That's a nasty heresy. You know what they call that heresy? Pantheism. Pantheism. That God is everything, and everything is God. that a lot of native religions talk about that. So Pocahontas, right? That Pocahontas is that. You ever seen the story of the movie Pocahontas, the Disney Pocahontas movie, where she sings the river is my brother and the otter? It's all that. God's in all those things, right? You know, that pantheism mixes the creation and the creator, and says that's not what this is. God is everywhere. It's not pantheism. Nasty words. Fun movie, good song, but that's not the biblical message. That God is not everything. God's not everything. All right. Any other questions? You guys did really well. Any other thoughts or questions with
I'll have to
this
give you
passage?
what I'm talking. It's a tough one, but
Yeah.
God the Father and God the Son, they're the Trinity.
Don't forget the
So they're
Spirit.
both, we just mentioned before, Jesus, God, Son is here.
Yeah.
God the Father too, and it's all together.
Yeah, and God can be all that because God is also Spirit, isn't He? God is Spirit. Yeah. It is the mystery of the Trinity, isn't it? Yeah. Because the Son is not the same as the Father, because the Son became a human being, a man. And He still is a human being and a man, right? He still is. He didn't stop. He still is. Yeah. And that human being is here in our midst as well. We just don't see Him.
Well, that's why the theme is God is ever present.
He's ever present, yeah. Omnipresent, all over the place, all the time. Which is, again, how do we wrap our brains around that? We just believe it ultimately, right? So that there's never a time when I'm alone. Never a chance that He's not with me. That He's always there. Even in our struggles, He can be our confidence. All right. Anybody else before we move over to the gospel? John 14. Looks like we're ready. All right, let's do it. John 14. Now, when you get to it, you're going to see a lot of red letters if you got the red letter Bibles. And what does that mean?
Jesus is speaking.
Jesus is speaking. And this is starting in chapter 13. This is all on the same evening, and it goes to the end of chapter 17. So John 13 through John 17 is all one evening in Jesus' life. What evening is it? The Passover. On the night that He was betrayed. And He celebrated the Passover meal. And He washed His disciples' feet. He gives a new commandment. He goes to Gethsemane, and in the midst of this whole evening, He has this long conversation. After the new commandment and the washing of the feet, He starts with it off, don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God, trust also in me. And then He, well, you know the way. We don't know the way, Jesus. Well, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. And then we get to verse 15. And Jesus is now going to begin talking about sending another counselor, another comforter. Okay? So verse 15 through verse 21. If you love me, you will obey what I command. And I will ask the Father, and He will give you another counselor to be with you forever. The Spirit of truth. The world cannot accept Him, because it neither sees Him nor knows Him. But you know Him, for He lives with you and will be in you. I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. Before long, the world will not see me anymore, but you will see me. Because I live, you also will live. And on that day, you will realize that I am in my Father, and you are in me, and I am in you. And whoever has my commands and obeys them, he is the one who loves me. He who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I too will love him and show myself to him. So this is, again, all on this night of Passover and stuff like that. And this is how He begins. And the first time He introduces this other counselor, the Spirit of truth. Yeah. Going to mention Him more in chapters 15 and 16, but this is the first time He mentions it here. So, any questions, any thoughts, any comments?
I can, so often I sit here and I think, why didn't they just listen? Why didn't they, but I read this, or we read this one, and I think, no wonder they were confused.
Yeah.
All of this being kind of thrown at them right now had to be overwhelming.
I mean, they've just had quite a week with Jesus, haven't they?
Yeah.
From the entry on Sunday with the palms and all that to his disrupting the temple, the threats brought against him and how he rebukes the threats, and this whole washing of the feet, giving of the meal. Yeah, this is all bewildering stuff.
On that day you will realize that I am in my Father and you are in me and I am in you.
Because I live, you'll
yeah.
also live.
Yeah, just hearing all of that, they had to be going, what?
So what kind of language in here gives us the impression that he's always with us, ever present?
Well, just what Peggy read.
Yeah.
I am in you. I am
Okay,
in the
that.
Father,
Okay, what else? What other kind of language?
It says, because I live, you also live.
Okay. Other language, that's right, there's more. About
I'm
he's
in the
always, okay,
And I'm in the Father, and you are in me, and I am in you.
good. You're missing the very obvious one. To me, it's very obvious.
I will not leave you as orphans.
I will not leave you as orphans.
I will come to you.
I even see a more obvious one. You guys are great at picking the hard ones. Look at verse 16.
He will give you another counselor to be with you forever.
There you go.
Forever.
Forever. To be with you, present. Another counselor, right? But ask the Father, and who's the first counselor that God sends?
Jesus.
Jesus. Jesus is the first counselor. And now that sometimes gets translated as comforter as well, doesn't it? It's an interchangeable word. The Greek word is paraclete. The Greek word is paraclete. And the paraclete literally means one who stands alongside of you in a courtroom. That's a paraclete. Someone who stands alongside of you, always in your distress and troubles, in your court, speaking on your behalf. And that's who Jesus says the Father's going to send. I'm going to ask him. I'm going to go and I'm going to ask him this. So I'm the first one that he sends, and this is the second one. And the second one is the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth.
It says, I will ask him.
Yeah.
So he asked his Father
That's what it
to
says.
send
Yeah.
someone.
And how do we say that in our Nicene Creed? And I believe in the Holy Spirit, who proceeds from
the Father
and the Son. Now,
with the Father.
that divided the church.
Yeah.
That was the first schism of the church.
Yeah.
Because the original Nicene Creed does not say proceeds from the Father and the Son. The original Nicene Creed says, and from the Father. It doesn't say, and the Son. The original Nicene Creed does not say that. And so the Roman Church, the Western Church, began teaching, well, Jesus sends the Spirit too. And so they added, and the Son. But the Eastern Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church, said, no, we cannot change the creed. And at 1000 AD, that's what the first schism, major schism of the church, over that phrase. We're the Western Church, so we have and from the Son. And this is one of the texts that would say and from the Son. But they would say, no, Jesus had to ask the Father to have the Spirit sent. He couldn't do it himself.
So they
That's the Eastern
made that
Church.
decision based on the Bible.
They
Right.
both groups say
That's
they
why?
do. Both groups say they do.
do.
Yeah.
Oh, so they.
We're right, they're wrong, but we're all Christians.
It's just different thinking.
Translation.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I think Satan got involved with the schism there.
Yeah.
It probably had personalities. It probably wasn't just all theology. Probably there was political stuff going on because you had you had Rome, the empire, and then you had Istanbul in Turkey, the head of the Eastern Church. And they were probably political stuff going on. as well. I studied it a long time ago in church history. I forgot a lot of it, but that there's, I'm sure those are some of the playing things that are going on in it as well. It wasn't just theology. There was probably politics
a lot of what,
and
like
power
today
plays.
is like, if he says it this way, then we're gonna say it the other way.
Could be, yeah. I mean, there's some theology to it, obviously, but it probably could have gotten settled without the schism happening. But the schism happened because of the politics, probably more than anything. But we got off gear with that. But I wanted you just to hear that, right? That he's everywhere. Why? Because Jesus promised he's going to be with us as a counselor and a comforter. One of the things we're going to talk a little bit about then, as a counselor, he's always there watching us, whatever we're doing. If I want to do something wrong, do you think he doesn't see it? He
Sees
does.
everything.
He does, because why? He's
Sees
there.
everything.
He's there.
He's,
He's present. He's there, right? And he always sees it. And when you know you're being watched, we were talking about that with workers, right? When you know you're being watched,
You act differently.
do you act differently? Will you not do the wrong thing when you're being watched? Well, more inclined, maybe to. Maybe not, but more inclined to. It gives us an element of self-control. If I know I'm being watched, I might work harder, might do the right thing. Yeah, God's Spirit's always there, always watching us as a counselor. So that might lead us to not do the wrong stuff as much. It's a good thing that he's always present. And comforter, right? That's a great word to counsel too. When I'm distressed, yeah, he's going to be there. Even in the worst places, I'm with you. Isaiah 43, is that 43? Isaiah 43:2. I am with you. Even when you walk through the fires, right? You will not be set ablaze. Who are the three guys who learned that? Yeah, that's their Babylonian names. They had Hebrew names though too, right? Has Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael. Shadrach and Benny, if you watch VeggieTales. And so Nebuchadnezzar does what? Throws them into the thinking that I'll show them. And when he throws them in, he's amazed because what does he see? A fourth person. One who he calls like the Son of God. Doesn't believe in him, but they don't get burned up. They're not set ablaze. Why? Because God is with them everywhere. Emmanuel, right? That's the Isaiah name that he's been given. Emmanuel. What does Emmanuel mean? And that's the name that he gives him. And that's what God says he is. I am with you, Isaiah 43. So when you go through the fire, you won't be set ablaze. He's our comforter, our counselor. He's our companion when we're lonely. When we think we're alone, we're not. Because he's ever present. Ever present.
You had mentioned it before. And you're my little note for helper, advocate.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother dimension.
It is, yeah.
Sticking up for us.
Yep. The word is, it's paraclete. It gets translated as helper, comforter, counselor, or advocate. All four are used in English languages. And they got different elements to them. And an advocate is one who speaks up for us. Yep. And it literally, like a lawyer, a defense lawyer. Right? And that's who John will call Jesus our advocate. So God is looking at us and our failures, and Jesus as our advocate is going to say, what? You can't punish them. Why? I've already paid for it. He's speaking on our behalf. Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Any thoughts or questions from John 14 and Jesus' words of our paraclete? Our one who's always with us, everywhere. Omnipresent. That's the fancy way of saying it. He's omniscient, all-knowing. He's omnipotent, all-powerful. And he's omnipresent. We didn't use all the fancy words. We just said all powerful, all knowing, ever present. Omni is obviously the Latin word for all. All. All right. More questions, thoughts, comments? Going once. Going twice. So, we're closing out.